Hi. I want to talk about Planet Apocalypse. Now, this is a game that has just delivered. Basically, it was a Kickstarter that was released on a Kickstarter a couple of years ago. I think it was February 2018 by Peterson Games, the same company and fella Sandy Peterson that released Cthulhu Wars, which is a game that I lately got into late, and it was shortly after joining the Onslaught 3 for Cthulhu Wars that this game, Planet Apocalypse, was unleashed onto Kickstarter. So basically, it's a game about, right in line with, all the movies and music and other sort of entertainment I've been taking in over the years, with demons invading Earth, different types of demons, and it's a co-op game for 1 to 5 players, where essentially everybody's trying to work together to stop the flow of these demons, coming out of hell and reaching the start line of the game board, which I would assume is the open path to the rest of the planet. There's one lord that needs to be defeated. This can be chosen randomly depending on how many of them you have. The base game comes with one. The object is to defeat the demons, gain power, weapons, etc. for your characters, whether you're playing 1 or 5. And to take shots at the Lord Demon, which is quite powerful from what I understand, of reading the rules. I haven't played the game yet. That it's going to take several attempts to go in and cause damage, much like in a video game, the boss monster. And I think that's really where this game is trying to what this game is trying to emulate, that feel of a video game, where you go in and you're fighting the boss monster, and maybe you realize you need to have more power ups or what have you. And I think that's generally the feel. And that this might, I could be corrected for being incorrect on this, but I think this was the drive with Sandy Peterson. He's got a background in video games, having assisted or designed, been one of the designers behind Doom, the original Doom. And there's a really cool tie-in that came late in the Kickstarter campaign to Doom as well. We'll get into all that later. The focus of this particular video is going to be essentially an unboxing. Take a look at the components. I got my notification just last Friday that the game was being delivered. This is 2 years in. It was supposed to be delivered. If you go by the initial Kickstarter release schedule, it was supposed to be released a year ago, but I think August, 2019. Anyways, I'm not really one who's a stickler for release dates and updates, and I don't get all upset when things don't come on time. As a small company, releasing a top-notch product, I'll come out and say that right now. The components are fantastic. The design, as far as I could tell, is solid. I had a chance to in-depth read through the rule book early on, about a year and a half ago, assisted with the proofreading a little bit. And from what I can tell, it looks like a decent game, but the components, I can say right up off the top here, are really much more impressive than I thought they would be, to be perfectly honest. Having purchased a large amount of Cthulhu Wars, I have most of that game, not everything. I think that's probably impossible at this time, unless you're an ultra completionist and you've got your finger on the pulse of eBay and all the other secondary markets. I had a hard time finding stuff for that game, but that's what led me to the decision to go all in on the Hellhound pledge for Planet Apocalypse. That gives you the base game, all of the expansions, a few extra, there's some artwork and whatnot. And I felt that was probably the best way to go. I was impressed enough with the art renditions that I saw, the rules, and just the look of the game, the theme, just spoke to me much, like a lot of the games that I do like. So again, I wasn't really put off that it took this long to get here. The product is polished. And we can get right into taking a look at it. I have enough games to play right now, especially this point in life. I've got a few that I play regularly. I've got the ever looming specter of Warhammer 40K army that's constantly growing and getting out of hand. So I have enough time. So it didn't really bother me that it took this long to get here. There were no damages. It came in 3 boxes. You can take a look at here at all the material that did come. with the Kickstarter, and as you can see, it's a lot of boxes. Now those white boxes, each one of these is an individual Lord, and these were extra add-ons. But again, if you took the Hellhound pledge, they were all included. And I believe they retail each for somewhere around $20, $25, something like that. You can see right here on the box. The price is in the corner, but I'm not looking at that right now, so you'll have to just take my word for it. But anyways, it was a really good value. So the beginning of this video, what we're going to do is we're going to focus just on the core game, what you get in the box. It's a big box. It's like 6 by 12 by 18 or whatever. So basically a foot by a foot and a half, the same kind of size box that Cthulhu Wars came in, rather large. So if you take the rest of these boxes, I'll probably wind up tossing them in the trash, and they are nice. I mean, as far as expansion box go, they look good. The inserts are actually quite functional. Everything fits in them really nicely. The only thing is I don't have room for all these boxes. It was hard enough getting it through the door, without having to go through marriage counseling. Having to store all this stuff is going to be a nightmare. So I'm going to wind up chucking most of the boxes, unfortunately. And if I can't, whatever I can't fit into the base game box is going to have to stay, in one of the other boxes. So I'm going to have to try and keep this footprint down to the base game, maybe one other box. But another really interesting part about this Kickstarter, and I can't really remember how all of this came about or whatever. Maybe it went well, better than they hoped. I don't know. But all of the card stock in the game for the character sheets, the demons, the fourth circle demons, as well as the lords and whatnot, they came in regular card stock. And what they did is later on in the campaign decided to, we're going to upgrade everything to 3 mil cardboard, which I went in on for the Cthulhu Wars last Onslaught 3. And I was happy I did that. It's a decent upgrade. Some people don't like it. They say, "Oh no, it's too big." That's nonsense. You have your own opinion. That's great, whatever. But the 3 mil cardboard is really nice, solid. I'm the type of guy that when I'm ramming stuff in the box, I'm trying to wrap things up quickly. I have a busy life, and it's time to clean up a game, especially one as big as as Cthulhu Wars are now, Planet Apocalypse. I'm hurrying up. Right? There's a ton of stuff. And sometimes the cardboard can get bent. You put things in the box the wrong way, and the thin cardboard gets bent. But that's not the case with the 3 mil. It's thick, sturdy. I've got some here for an example. I mean, they upgraded the base game, all of the expansions, everything that came in cardboard to this 3 mil, really sturdy stuff. So that was a really nice upgrade. I thought it was great. It was something that they threw in. I think it added a few months to the eventual release of this game because there was an error or whatnot on sending the files, whatever it was. I'm really not all that interested in all that. Bottom line is it all came here. It arrived in 3 boxes. Everything was in good shape. The box was packed much better than when my Onslaught 3 box came for the Cthulhu Wars Kickstarter. And I understand there were some issues with the fulfillment warehouses, and I'm happy to report it was much better. I mean, I opened that box for Onslaught 3, and it was a bit of a disaster. There's another word I'd like to use for it, but I'm not going to. The things were all over the place. The boxes were dented, damaged holes in them. It was packed with all kinds of loose cardboard thrown in as if that was going to help. But needless to say, it didn't. But I'm happy to say that the main box, with all of the expansions was packed well. Nothing moved around, nothing was damaged, and everything else was fine. So nothing but good to report on that. So without wasting any more time, let's get into opening up the box of the base game. We'll take a look at the components, and then what I'll do is I'll get into the other expansions. And if you just have the base game, you can shut it off at that point. All right. So let's give her a go. Okay, here you can see the base game, the main box, if you will, for Planet Apocalypse. And as I mentioned, the box it's big. You can see it's wide, it's thick. There's a lot of material in there, but also at the same time, as I mentioned, the insert is quite functional. Although I'll probably not use it because of all of the other boxes that came with this. So opening this up. can see the rule book. It's a glossy covered rule book. It's very functional, and this is something that's also worth noting, is that all of the information needed for all of the expansions that have been released to date, all the rules, everything's included in this rule book. In the expansions, there are no other rule books, there are no other pamphlets explaining any rules. Everything you need, so far as what's been released for the game, is in here within this book. So that makes things very easy when it comes to rules questions while you're playing. You can just flip through and find whatever it is you're looking for. These are the expansion lords. There are also the expansion Fourth Circle demons. Everything, as I mentioned, is in here, including the whatever player characters, and really that's about it. And then when it comes to the maps, also the maps are all different in each expansion, which is really kind of cool. They're different challenges. They're all shaped differently, and everything you need to know in terms of those maps and the special rules about them are included in this rule book. So I thought that was very cool, interesting design choice, and I like it. Rather than having a bunch of small books around, you've got one. If you don't buy the expansions, it wasn't that much. And if anything, it's a good advertisement for the company to say, hey, look, here's all this other material. Why don't you, if you didn't, go all in on the Kickstarter, well, maybe now you might want to source them out. You enjoy the game. Look at all this other cool stuff, right? So I thought that was neat. 3 mil Heltime board. Basically, this is for combat with the whatever lord, the main demon boss monster for the game that you're playing when Heltime starts, and that's when you do combat them. The action moves to this board, so it's solid. 3 mil cardboard, as I mentioned, like everything else, and I believe that was always 3 mil. I'll have to double check on that. But here you have the despair track, the despair pool, courage pool, basically doom track. Everything you need to know to keep track of the action in the game is contained on this sheet, this reference sheet. And this is that cardboard I was talking about. I mean, it's it's good, it's functional. It kind of slides around a little bit on a polished wood table. But prone to bending. For guys like me, I'm going to damage this thing. I know that's going to happen. So to have that upgrade was really welcome. And like I said, with the insert, everything fits in kind of neatly, including this board, which is it's a circular, curved board. It's got its own spot here. And this was one thing I was curious about during the Kickstarter, was what would the game board quality be like, and I'm happy to report that it's good. It's the cardboard is solid, the artwork is fantastic, but it folds well, it stows nicely, and you've got 2 maps, right? It's double-sided, so you've got 2 maps to work with in the base game, and looking forward to trying that out. Tokens, all kinds of tokens, again on thick 3 mil cardboard. So these are the sort of counters and tokens that will have some heft to them. They'll feels like currency when you're using them, especially when it comes to the various player tokens that you need for upgrades and whatnot. You actually you feel a bit like a boss yourself, handling these kind of things, as opposed to flimsy cardboard. It's not much, but it's a little thing that does add to the game, right? And these, I believe, were always in this 3 mil cardboard, so that was good. Lots of tokens, 4 counter sheets with the game, and then your Lord and character and demon sheets. So again, this is what I was talking about as well with the upgrade. So here you've got the Lord Baphomet that comes with the base game. It's pretty cool. You've got all of the the wall, and as well as the demon itself has its own health. All the information you need are on these. They're pretty big, but the thing is, you're only playing with one, right? So it's not as if, or occasionally, I think there are some maps and some expansions that do have 3 lords, so you'll have a bit of sprawl, especially when you take into account the Fourth Circle demons that are being spawned such as the Hellhound by the Lord. You know, you can see this can kind of, you know, it has the potential to get out of hand, but I don't think that the artwork detracts too much from the functionality. I know there are people out there that say, oh, I could do without the artwork, and, you know, maybe cram all this onto a smaller card. You know, you can go ahead and do that, but I personally like the you know, the artwork. You can put the demon on there for reference or whatever. So again, all of this as part of the Kickstarter was replaced with 3 mil, which is nice. I'll show those in a second. So here's for the map. Invasion and Doomgate has its own reference sheet. This is pretty standard. This is your data sheet for the you know, the larva and first, second, and third circle demons. These are the same demons that are going to show up in every game that you play. These are the ones, the common ones that are being spawned. So this is a one-of-a-kind sheet that's going to be used in every game that you're playing. So again, this one was upgraded as well. The fourth circle demon sheet. Gifts for your players. Again, this is a one-shot, you know, a single-use reference board that was upgraded. So this is to keep track of the upgrades and the gifts that your characters are getting throughout the game. And then, of course, your character sheets. Right, there are, I think, 6 of these in the base game. Initially, there was supposed to be 5, but then I think it was bumped up to 6. John Dark, I think, was the late edition. Correct me if I'm wrong. But again, these all are basically extras now. All of this stuff. So it's kind of cool if somebody spills a coffee, God forbid, or a beer or something on the 3 mil cardboard. I've got a backup, so you know, I'll keep those. I won't throw them out. I'll hang on to them. You know, plastic insert, again, very functional, good. All of the boxes have a great insert, but, you know, not really going to have much of a use for it afterwards. So here, let's bring that up a little bit closer. And then we can take a better look at some of these pieces. So you have all your dice. You got bags of, you know, 12, 6s, 10s, 8s, and 4s in various hues of blues and greens. And these are the dice to be used, you know, depending on the demons and the characters, weapons, etc. You know, increasing the likelihood of causing damage, hits, etc. So, and I'm going to say something here. May as well get this out of the way. I was a little bit worried about the quality of the dice after I ordered the specialty dice for Cthulhu Wars. And it came with one, the Onslaught 3, and I ordered another set. And basically what that was, there were, for each of the factions, and I think there are 9 or 10 of them right now in Cthulhu Wars, you could order a special bag of 20 dice, you know, 6-siders, in that faction's colors. So I ordered an extra one. I got 2, and I have to be honest, I was disappointed with the quality. The dice were lighter than they should be, if that's even possible, which led me to believe that they were, you know, not manufactured, you know, the same way that dice have been manufactured for the most part for, well, forever that I've been playing games. They were light. The paint was dark. They're hard to see. Some of them, I ordered a red set, and it was just hard to see. And just overall, not too happy with them, you know, with the look and feel of them. I haven't played enough with them to know if there are any balancing issues with them, although I suspect that, you know, there could be, all right? And if there were, that I would know why instantly and say, oh, okay. But I haven't really noticed anything that way. They felt cheap, but these, you know, are decent dice. You know, they've got good weight to them. They roll well. I have no complaints so far. I'll let you know if I roll like crap like I normally do. You know, if an inordinate amounts of 1s and 2s or whatever is not good in this game show up, I'll be the first one to report on it, although it's more than likely me. So anyways, here you have your miniatures. Oh yeah, here are the Despair dice. These are the dice, and these feel pretty solid. I don't know, maybe if they're, you know, maybe somebody can correct me and tell me that, you know, they're from the same factory as the Cthulhu Wars dice. Actually, these do feel a little bit light. Seems to roll okay, but this feels a little bit lighter than than this does. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making things up, but we'll see how they roll. But these are pretty cool dice. I like the idea, the gameplay behind this, and this is how you're, you know, basically the dice are responsible for the demons. So we'll get around to playing that and can explore that more when it comes time to review. So cards, you have your small bridge size cards, not bridge size, but I guess this is North American size. I can't remember the size off by hand. But a couple of decks of the little cards that have, you know, your allies, your special forces and whatnot, Legion cards, and gifts. A lot of gifts. So this is pretty cool. I believe this is, yes, normal size or bridge size card, and this has, you know, your reference cards in it, as well as, you know, there's some other cards in here. There's not, you know, a whole lot of them, but got another deck there. Characters. Okay, we'll take a closer look at the characters here. Line them up for you one at a time. But you've got your 6 minis here, and again, just to make a comment, a more positive comment on the quality of the minis. I'm a fan. I was a little bit concerned, you know, with some of the, you know, with the detail, right, in the plastic. And I mean, they're not the most detailed, but I was pleasantly surprised at the detail coming through on some of these character minis, as well as the demons. The plastic is a little bit harder. It feels a little bit harder than they are for Cthulhu Wars. So if you're into painting, you know, you probably wind up with less problems in terms of your primer and your paint, you know, peeling off from the minis bending. So overall, pretty impressed with these. Character minis look pretty good. You can take a look at them one at a time. We've got Terang. We've got Sindru, Professor Maxwell, Hannah Hazard, Naomi Jocelyn, and John Dark. So again, these will be the main characters that you're using throughout the game, without the expansions, of course. Okay, you have now I should probably look at these first. These are the larvae, and that would be your limbo level demon. They're technically not demons. They're certainly not humans. But they are kind of stuck in limbo, in that, you know, sort of middle section, on their way to you know, be completely obliterated, to have their minds are already destroyed, I imagine. But not quite human, not quite demon yet, but certainly a problem for the characters. And these will be the most common, I believe. You know, the lowest level, easiest to destroy. So you get a bag of these. Closer look at them again. You know, the quality, it's the plastic's a little bit harder, which I like. A little bit more solid. And here you have the first circle demons, and these are Grillis. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Kind of cool. I like the explanation provided by Sandy on these ones. You can get a closer look at them. And these guys are, you know, kind of, I don't know what the heck you would call this, but I like the human, sort of humanoid head that's on the top. They kind of fool you into thinking that, you know, they're pretending that they're human, and they look fairly disgusting. But again, these are your first circle demons, not the strongest, but there are enough of them that cause you problems. Then you would have the fiends here. There are 4 of these in the box. Take a closer look at this guy. Right, and the fiends would be your second circle demons. We've got 4 of those. Again, the detail is pretty good. I'm pretty impressed. I, for one, like the choice in colors for the plastics. I will not be painting these miniatures. I kind of like my board games to have the pieces in bright colors where I can instantly see which piece belongs to what group or category or what have you. So I like, you know, just the solid plastic look, and I like the color choice on overall with the game. You know, it's not jumping all over the color spectrum. It's kind of muted, and I like that, and it looks good. It's got a nice pop to it. So that's your fiend. Then you've got the Kako demons, 2 of those in the set. Again, this model is really good. I was privy to seeing this mini with the Cthulhu Wars Onslaught 3. This was one of the Kickstarter exclusives. It was thrown in, as a bonus. It has stats for Cthulhu Wars, and I believe all of these miniatures and that were released in this Kickstarter has a data sheet in Cthulhu Wars. There's a PDF online for it. It was put out, I can't remember if it was during this Kickstarter or afterwards as part of Cthulhu Wars. I'm not sure, but I know I've seen them all. So if you want to use these lords and demons, as terrors or great old ones, there's a data sheet for them. So anyways, that's Kako Demon, pretty cool looking. It's kind of an upside down head. All of these minis, the detail is fantastic. The artwork is really good. It's very, very gross, disgusting. I mean, if you're squeamish or if you're not into nudity and kind of the Clive Barker, his style, his description, kind of the sex and violence and depravity and just contortion and mutations and everything bad that can happen to the human body, right? You kind of get that feel in this game. And, they're not really pulling any punches. I'm not sure if this is the sort of thing you want to play with your 6-year-old, or a 10-year-old, certainly not. But even teenagers, depending on your level of, what you're willing to put up with and explain to your kids, I'm just going to say it's not for everybody. Personally, I think it's cool. It's right up my alley, but, we've already gone there. So next, we've got a Fourth Circle demon, and these are unique. So you don't have multiple copies of these. There are 2 that come in the base game. This one, some of the names on these I'm having a hard time remembering, just for the sake of pronunciation. But let me see here. It's the Catoblepes. I don't know. I'm going to butcher that one from here to Kingdom Come. But here's a good example again to give you a closer look at this. What can I say here? You're looking at the rear end of this thing. At least I think it's the rear end. I don't know which side is the rear end. Both sides look gross and have a face coming out of it, right? So just let those words sink in for a minute. But the detail is fantastic. It looks truly horrific. Unique stats. It's got a unique ability to it. Really cool, and I'm impressed, right? Again, really sturdy plastic on this. So that's him. This one's a lot easier to say. Pretty basic. Hellhound. This model is fantastic. It really conveys that, that feel that this is a hellhound. That this is the creature spoken of in myth and lore, and throughout different different stories. Whether it's folklore or modern horror. I really get that sense that this is what this thing is, right? So again, if you want to paint these, the plastic's decently hard. The detail is better. It came out better than I thought it would. And again, just maybe not safe for some the squeamish types. Just take a look at the rear end on this guy. I don't know, but like the heads and bodies, like they're things contorting and pulling and ripping and popping out of every part of it. I mean, there are faces coming out of mouths and it's, again, the artwork is really cool and it's consistent throughout, right? So you really get this idea that the earth is being ripped apart in some hellish, psychedelic, end game doomsday. And I think it works. So that's the Hellhound. And then you have the Lord in the base game here, and this is Lord Baphomet, right? So right away the name, you get that sense when you look at this. You see the I can't remember if that's a steer skull or whatnot, but it's kind of classic to the symbol of the Baphomet symbol. All that dark magic, black magic kind of nonsense. But you get that sense from this. Now I was kind of curious when I first saw this. Okay, what's with the wall? But it's kind of symbolic, I would imagine. It's coming through the wall, the veil of our reality and this other dimension, this hell or whatever, as humanity is scrambling to figure out what the hell is going on. just trying to survive this. So I think it does convey that well, even though at first I thought it was a little bit odd. Certainly when you stack it up against the other ones, but then again, there are some other of these lords that are really kind of head scratching, but it fits with the overall theme of the story and the game of, you know, just all hell breaking loose. And if you could wrap your head around what that may or may not look like, you know, as opposed to, you know, just some dude, you know, in a red suit with black underwear and a red pitchfork, right, with maybe a little goatee. So again, if you could just wrap your head around, you know, what could be coming out of the pits of hell and bulldozing or steamrolling or just flowing through, you know, the ether or the air into your mind, you know, it kind of works with the wall. And this being the first one in the base game, you know, as it's breaking through that veil, that wall that separates us, that keeps us safe from, you know, whatever, you know, horrid reality exists in other dimensions and whatnot, and the beasts and creatures that have been, you know, trying to break forth and, you know, yada yada, all that business, right? So I think the model does work, you know, certainly after reading its stats and what it does, and I think it's a good introduction. So, and this is a decent mini. Again, if you're interested in painting these things, you can. I initially didn't think that would work very well. It wasn't unsure of the, you know, the level of detail. I paint a lot of, you know, minis for mini games, you know, such as Warhammer 40,000, and, you know, they've really been ramping up the detail and the quality of their minis lately. But, you know, not to compare them, but if you were so inclined to paint, these are certainly paintable, and it would look great on the table. It's just not my thing. So there's the base game. You know, a lot of stuff in there. You're going to be using all of these minis. Well, these ones here, you know, these bags of these fellas, you know, you're going to be using those every game. All of these cards and the dice and whatnot, and these characters. You've got a choice of 6, so probably more than enough to play with here for quite some time. But the price I thought was really good in terms of the all-in package, whereas going all in Cthulhu Wars costs quite a bit more, considerably more, and this was a lot more digestible. And I like the way that Peterson Games handles their pledge manager, in that you can choose your pledge type. You can upgrade once the Kickstarter closes, and then make your payments afterwards, right? So from that standpoint, it was you know, it's easier on the marriage, it's easier on the pocketbook, and certainly easier to manage in terms of you know, how this is coming in. So that's it for the base game. We're going to start to break open some of the expansions here. You can book out of this if you want to right now. But actually, what I'll do next is I'll be just opening up the box of the 3 mil paperwork that came for the core game. It came in its own box. So what I'll do is I'll open that next, do a side by side, take a look at it, and then we'll get into the expansions. All right. Thanks for checking this out. Hopefully you stick around.